Okay, I'd like to begin go over again last part of Gemara yesterday, which I didn't know. Let's start from Yud Beis Amid Beis. Before it gets wide, it says 3 lines up Tan Rabbanan. And we're describing, we said that biologically in the 4th hour, a person's not going to make a mistake because his stomach is going to know that's the time to eat. And now we're giving the hierarchy of what? Of when people eat. Tan Rabbanan. Shari Shoina Maichaludim. The 1st hour of the day, the cannibals, they get up to eat. There's an groisa balei taiva. They fresh and mention. They eat people. I'm teaching for you, Baruch. They fresh and mention, so they have to eat early in the morning. Shniya Michael Listim is for the rabbis, right? Shlishis Michael Yorshin. They don't. The Yorshin they have it easy. Revius Michael Poilim, the workers. Chamishis Michael Talmidei Chachamim. Shishis Michael Kaladam. Fred Gemara, how can you say the 6 hours, the time when all people eat? For Rapapa Revius Mansur that we just said before Lachol, we said that what? It's 4th hour. Switch it around. Revius is Michael Adam, Chamish is Michael Poilim, Shish is Michael Talmidei Chachamim. You can't be able to if you eat after 6 hours, it's like throwing a stone into a barrel of wine. You don't feel it. You don't have enough of it. Rabbi that you don't have enough of it. If you didn't taste something in the morning, you starve until 6 hours in the day. Less number, then it's not a problem. Even if the 6 hours, you'll go ahead and be nana from your food. We got into this yesterday. Machlokas by Edis Nefashos, right? We had machlokas. We have 3 shitas. We had the shitas of Abaya, 2 shitas. Abaya says Rabbi Meir does not make a chilik in any time, or he makes a mashahu. And according to Rav, it's a chilik of 2 hours in less a bit. And we had, according to Abaya, the first Lashon was a half hour in Rabbi Yehuda. Second Lashon was an hour and a bit. And the third Lashon was three. That machlokas that we have over there in by Dinei Nefashos is the same machlokas we have over here. Why does we say 4 to 5? We have Rabbi Yehuda says 4th hour, 5th hour, 6th hour, and Rabbi Meir says 5th to 6th. So therefore, the 3 to 2 is the same chilik. Says the Gemara Pshita. What are you telling me? Hainu hach. That says says Hakamash Malan. That shinuyi the shanina shinuyi. Well, the kashas that we had on this and the terutzim we get on it, we said we had a kasha yesterday. So people, why by chametz can't you eat up to the exact time? If people are exactly the time like Remeya, you should eat at the end of the 6th hour, or all this chalukim like Rabbi Yehuda. Why do you have to go and stop at the 4th hour? You can go up at least a half hour or an hour or 2.5, 2.5 hours before. So he said that this was reason. The people who said Edis Nefashos was reason. And they were very mocked because they knew they'd have the chakiros and they have to be answer exact times. But Stam the Hamayam, they're not exactly the right time. Or he answered it was a cloudy day. So the terutzim he gave weren't beichedik terutzim. They were terutzim to go ahead and align the Mishnah in Sanhedrin to the Mishnah what in Pesachim. To align the Mishnayos that the Mishnayos should go ahead and be aligned. And you shouldn't say Hanoihi. So again. So this is what we said yesterday. Now we're holding on Yud Beis on Yud Beis. We have 4 lines from the bottom. Yud Beis on Yud Beis. Amrav Sim Varashi Leishanu that what in the Gemara and Sanhedrin that we can make a chilik and say that it's 2 hours and 3 hours we can align them up is sha'os. If they say he killed him in the 2nd hour of the day, he killed him in the 3rd hour of the day, he killed him in the 3rd hour of the day, he killed him in the 5th hour of the day, but you mentioned hours. When did he kill him? Before Nates. The other says after Nates. In other words, they don't mention hours, they mention Nates. In that situation, Edusim Betela, the Edus will be bottled. Says one says before Nates Achama, I know the distinction between Koidem Nates and middle of Nates. If they say Koidem Nates, middle of Nates, it's Edusim Betela. It's 2 different times, and you can't be mason them. So you have the same problem. So that the time I would thought Travayu Chodem Milsukami Bitoichanes Koidem Nates is the same thing. But Hodikama Besoichanes really he means Koidem. And what do you mean Besoich? He saw Besoich Netzachama Bigaluye Havikoi Usure Baalma Hudachazi. He was in the glow of the Nates, and he said he thought he saw the rays of the Nates. So Kamash Malan, that people would make a chilik between koidim and besoich, and we don't say besoich really means koidim. Okay. Amrav Nachman Amrav Haloch Rabbi Yehuda. Again, we had the machlokes. What was the machlokes? According to Rabbi Yehuda, 4th hour you stop eating, 5th hour you toilin, 4th hour you eat, 5th hour you toilin. 6th hour you begin to burn. Rabbi Meir said, no, you can even up to the 5th hour, and then you burn it in the 6th. So the machlokes was, what do you do in the 5th hour? Like Rabbi Yehuda Toilin, ain't sarfin, and ain't oichlin, and like Rabbi Meir, you would be able to go ahead and eat up to the 5th hour. It wouldn't be toilet. That's machlokes. So we paskin, the Rav of Nachman says in the name of Rav, the halacha that toilet kol chamesh, we do not eat in the 5th hour. So from 11 to 12, we will not eat. In the perfect case, from 11 to 12, we won't eat. So Amalei Rava Rav Nachman, the name of our halacha Reb Meir. Why? The stam latana kavasei. We have a rule in Shas, halacha kistam mishnah. The halacha is like an anonymous mishnah, and I'll show you from an anonymous mishnah that you could eat in the 5th hour, like Reb Meir. So why are you going ahead and saying the halacha is like Yehuda, you can only eat in the 4th hour and toilet in the 5th? I'm going to show you could eat in the 5th hour. Where do you see this? The next parak, kol shoshem mutar lechol. Anytime that it's permitted to eat, Michael, you can go ahead and feed. Anytime it's permitted to eat, Michael, you can go ahead and feed, which is mashma. As long as you can eat, your animal can eat. Michael, you're feeding your animal. So the whole time that you can eat, Michael, you can feed your animal. Now the kasher is, why does it say muta? It should say kol zman she'oichel. Anytime you eat, Michael. That's the lashon of muta. So it comes out. I'm giving you the Gemara beforehand. Muta means that you can't eat, but it's muta for somebody else to eat. Who is that? That's the Shitas Rabbi Gamliel. Shitas Rabbi Gamliel, guys, in the 5th hour, you can't eat your chulin, but the kahanim could eat their truma. So now this apparently would be the halacha is like you could eat in the 5th hour. So the Gemara might say that's like Reb Meir. Says no, so no, it's not Reb Meir. It's Reb Yehuda, because Reb Meir would say oichel, not muta. Muta means I can't eat, but it's muta for somebody else to eat. Since somebody else to eat, Michael I can feed. Says the Gemara, tiny question. Kol shosh muta lechel Michael. Says the Gemara, he loves stam. Who? That's not a stam mishnah. Mishum the kasha muta. The word muta makes no sense. You should have said kol zman she'oichel Michael. Why did I say muta? Right? The muta is right. But the parrot says the Gemara, we're going to get to the Chaf Aleph in a few days. The Gemara says that what muta for the kahanim, if they eat truma, you can feed your animals. But I can't eat. Says the Gemara, the name of my halach Reb Gamliel. Okay, very geschmack. So it's not Reb Meir, but it's a stam mishnah according to Reb Gamliel. So let's say the halach is like Reb Gamliel, that what in the 5th hour is not toilin. In the 5th hour, in fact, the kahanim could eat the truma. Says the Gemara, and now why would the halach be like that? The havile machriya, because he is the machriya. Okay, let's go outside. Let's go over the shittas, guys. Outside. Says Rabbi Yehuda, 4 eat, 5 toilin, 6 burn. Says Rabbi Meir, 5 eat, 6 burn. Says Rabbi Gamliel, Vensach. It depends. If you're a regular person like Rabbi Yehuda, 4 hours. If you're a kohen like Rabbi Meir, 5 hours. So l'chayre, he is the machriya between the two. And for the Gemara, he's not the machriya. Machriya is if you hear an open machlokas between them, and then you have a compromise, a third party. Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda never mentioned chulin and truma. There was the same. There was no difference in chulin, there was in truma. Since they didn't mention anything about chulin and truma, Rabbi Gamliel's shita is a total new shita. We never heard anything about truma and chulin. It comes along Rabbi Gamliel and creates the shita. So you can't say that Allah is like Rabbi Gamliel because he's a machriya. He's not machriya anybody. They didn't argue like chulin and truma. They argued stam. As I state in Gemara, says the Gemara Baita, to say that Allah is like Rabbi Gamliel, says the Gemara loy machriya who. He's not a machriya because time with the nafshei kamar. He's saying his own Torah, the chilik between chulin in the 4th hour up until the 5th, and 5th up until the 6th degree truma. The Ibai Sema Rav Dama Kiai Kana. He said that Allah is like Rav, that the Allah is like Rav, that like Rabbi Yehuda, that you can eat in the 4th hour. That's like the following time. Let's see, along with the Brisa, and in the Brisa we could say that you can eat into the 4th hour, but not the 5th. The 20 Arba Asa Shchaliyas B'Shabbos. Okay, the 14th day falls out on Shabbos, and right this year, and so when is Pesach going to be? Mitzvah Shabbos, right? So what are you going to have to do with your chametz? You're going to have to get rid of it beforehand, right? So what do you do on your gimel? You're going to have to get rid of it on your gimel. The Dalit is Shabbos. So now what do we do with your gimel, right? Mavirin es hakol mefnei Shabbos. You remove all your chametz to a Shabbos, v'sorfin, and you burn it. What are you burning? Truma is tameis. Truma, that's tummy. That's the halacha. You burn it. Tuluyos, which you usually don't burn, you just keep it in a state of suspended animation, you're going to burn. The Tahoros, you can even burn Truma, that's Tahar, that's Chametz. Before it becomes Chametz, you're going to burn it on the 13th. It's not Chametz until you valid the next day, which is Shabbos, and you can't burn it. Umeshayari mina Tahoros, Mazon Shtei Sudos. You can only use Mazon Shtei Sudos. There's no Shalosh Shudas. There's no Shalosh Shudas on when it falls out on Shabbos. There's no Shalosh Shudas because you have to go with Te'ovim to eat the matzah. So therefore it only says Mazon Shtei Sudos, not Mazon Shalosh Sudos. Kedei lechal adalit shois. That's what you're going to do. And what does it say? L'chayri, here's your raya. In order to eat it till when? Dalit shois. Who holds dalit shois, guys? Rabbi Yehuda. So apparently you have a din that's like Rabbi Yehuda. Divri Rabbi Elazar ben Yehuda. Ishbar Susa. These are the words of Rabbi Elazar ben Yehuda. Ishbar Susa. So that line, that key line, it would be that Rav would agree with that line. That the halach is like the fourth hour. Lo yisrafu. Now, Tahoros lo yis, but it says, Mishum Rabbi Yeshua Omer. They say in the name of Yeshua, Amru Loi, that he said to Rabbi Elazar ben Yehuda Ishbar Susa, Tahoros lo yisafu. You can't go ahead and burn Tahoros, because just because you have too much food and it may become chametz, you can't burn stam tyra dika truma. You can't be misabed from the world truma that's tar. Why? Shema yimtzu lehem eichlin. Maybe some kahana will show up in your house and ask you, have anything to eat? Amar lehem kvar bikshu v'lei matzu. You know, we look. There's no kanim coming. Amar lo Shem chutz l'chaim elanu. Maybe they're outside the walls and they're going to show up on Shabbos. Amar lehem, according to you, that I have to worry about guys showing up. Even the truma that is a suffix, what if I can't burn? I shouldn't. Why? Shema Yava Eliyahu. Maybe Eliyahu is going to show up. Gitare. So why are you asking? How could you burn truma to Hira? You should even ask me, how can you burn truma to Liyos? Because maybe Eliezer will show up and say, Eliyahu will show up and say, Tahar. So like, no, we're not worried about that, guys. Back to Erevin. Guys, remember this was the sugya. If there's Erev Tchum above the 10, there's coming on Shabbos, right? So Loi Be'ar Shabbos, Eliyahu is not going to come on Erev Shabbos. Loi Be'ar Yom Tovim. B'fnei HaTareach. We're busy being trouble with the Suda. We can't be busy with Eliyahu. Ayin Sham, right? So l'chayra, that's not a concern. So therefore, you can burn Tuluyos because Eliyahu is not showing up to me on the virus is suffix. But if Hashem by Tahiros, how can you bring Tahiros? Maybe a coin's going to show up. So I'm a lie. Laisazim Misham Shekavu Alacha Kreb Elazar ben Yehuda Ish Kvar Susus. They Shama Mishum Rabbi Yeshua. Now, I said it wrong before. It wasn't Rabbi Yeshua. It said you read it. Ish Kvar Susus Shama Mishum Rabbi Yeshua. Stop. So Amrullah, they said to him, I read it wrong the first time around. It's not Rabbi Yeshua said this. Rabbi Eliezer was saying it. Rabbi Elazar was saying the name of Rabbi Yeshua. Mishu means he said he never saw him. He said in the name of. He never saw him, but he said in the name of him. But now, they said to him. So this is all Rabbi Shua. So now, we heard a few things in this brisa. Guys, let's go over it. We heard that Erev Yontif, Yud Gimel, Friday, you're going to burn Tahira, Taluyos, Temeyos. You're going to burn all that. You're going to burn all your chametz. All you're keeping around is Matan Shtei Sudas. Until when? You eat it in the fourth hour. Good? So they didn't leave there till they were kaveya the halacha like him. Pashas, they were kaveya the halacha that you eat it until the fourth hour. So now you'd have a good raya that Rav, who quoted this brisa, holds like what? Rabbi Yehuda, because he says you can only eat it until the fourth hour. So says the Gemara, my love afilu lechol. When it says they were kaveya the halacha according to Rav, doesn't mean afilu lechol to eat, meaning the fourth raya that he holds like Rabbi Yehuda. No. Amra Papa Mishmei Derava Loy Levaer. He's not speaking about, again, if you heard two halachas, he's not speaking about the halacha of eating. They were created halacha that you burn the truma and the taira and teluyos and the tmeis for sure. You burn them on your gimel, and you don't think that you're not chayish that kahana going to show up. Then you have to keep it around. So that prat. But the first part in Nachinami, maybe he doesn't create the halacha by 4, because maybe he holds like Rabbi at 5. Even Rebbe holds like Rav Nachman. Dama knows meaning. Rav Nachman said the halach is like Rabbi Yehuda that toil in the 5th. He said in the name of Rav, we're going to say even a bigger chiddush. The Tana, Rabbeinu Yehuda, Rebbe HaKadosh is going to hold like what? That even like Rabbi Yehuda, that toil in the fifth, you can only eat to the fourth and toil in the fifth. Where do you see that? Damarav Barav Adam Ma'isabad and Echad Shehifkid Diskaya Malaya Chametz Eitzel Yochanan Chakuka. It's the second time we had it. Yochanan Chakuka, we had him before. See the name of a town. But Tosha said he was a scribe, like Rabbi Yehuda from Chayik, Ben Mishvasayim is a Chayik. Now, so this guy means like a double bag or something, leather bag. So he entrusted Rabbi Yochanan Chakuka to watch this. So he was a shomer. What happened, right? V'nakfu akbarim, and the mice, they came and they made a hole in the bag. The chametz was dripping out. Rabbi, and he wanted to know, Rabbi Huda Chakukai wanted to know, Rabbi, what should he do with this chametz? Now it's not chametz yet; it's derogative. So he said, "Rishayna in the first hour, amaloi himtim." Maybe the guy's going to show up. Shniya, the second hour, amaloi. Rabbi told him himtim. Shlishis, the third hour, amaloi himtim. He told him to wait. Revius, amaloi himtim. And in the fourth hour, he told him to wait. Maybe he'll show up. Chamishis, amalei tseu machra b'shok. Go sell it. So l'chayr you have a raya that what? Up until the fifth hour, and then toiling you can't do, right? Go sell it. Go sell it. Now, who's he selling it to? He'd be usher to eat like Rabbi Yehuda. My love l'nachrim to Rabbi Yehuda. Again, you can't do anything with it, right? Toiling.
Isn't it asabana?
And eat it.
Isn't it asabana, but you should be able to sell it?
Burn it. It's not asabana yet, Shalom. You can't burn it yet. It's before this amount of beer. So go ahead, Rod, and sell it to a guy. In other words, that's what we do. In other words, you'll be doing the guy a chesed. You'll get some money for him. You'll sell it to a guy. You'll get the money, and then when the guy shows up, he'll say, "Oh, never! I stuck you with chametz, right?" And we said you can't have piktanos. He'll say, "No, don't worry about it. I'm a good halacha fella. I went ahead and here. Go ahead and take it. Go ahead and take your money. I'll be very, very happy." So Amr Rabbi Yosef, look, Yisrael. He sold it to Yisrael. This Yisrael said, "Wow, I can get a good deal. It's chametz, mamish. 1 hour left. I can get a great deal on it. I have a big family. So maybe you could even in the fifth hour, like Reb Meir. In other words, from the Maisa, if you're not selling it to a guy, if you're selling to a Yisrael, you don't have a right at toilet because you're still having no in the fifth hour, guys, right? If you sell it to Yisrael, it's like Reb Meir. So don't bring a raya that Rebbe holds like Rebbe Yehuda because you're selling it to a guy because you can't do anything within the fifth hour. Name can be you sell it to a yid, and the yid's going to use it in the fifth hour because maybe you're like Rebbe Meir. So you don't have a raya that Rebbe holds like Rebbe Yehuda. Like Yisrael, Rebbe Meir. I'm like Baya. Eli Yisrael. If he's selling it to Yisrael, so the shakle in nafshe, let him go ahead for himself. Let him listen. You're getting a deal. You're going to get the deal of a lifetime on this. You got the deal of a lifetime. Let him take it for himself and pay him and pay the mafkid. Pay it. There's chashad. Maybe people will see him taking it and they'll say he's getting a great deal. The Tanya, Gabait Tzedakah. Now, Gabait Tzedakah, guys, there's a tzedakah. Gabait, he collects money, and the tamchui is food. The tamchui is they collect food to give out. So now, Gabait Tzedakah, she'en lehem aniyim l'chalik. He doesn't have money to give to aniyim. Now, the problem is, if you keep around copper coins, they tend to go ahead, tarnish, and get ruined. So what they used to do is take the copper coins and switch them over to silver, because silver had a longer shelf life. That is called partin. You go ahead and switch. Right? So you have partin la'acherim. He has to have other people go ahead and make the denominational switch from copper to what? To silver. Right? They ain't partin la'atzman. He can't do it because people are going to be choshing him that what? Maybe he's taking advantage. Gabay tamchui, a guy who's in charge of the tamchui is the food. And she'en lehem aniyim l'chalik. He doesn't have aniyim to give it to. He sells it to others. They shouldn't think that what? He's getting a big deal. You have to be nucky from Hashem Yisrael. You have to be above the resolve. You have to be right above. We're going to see the next Masechta in Shkolim. We said a guy would go into the Trumas where the money was kept. He would go in there. He had to talk the whole time he was in there. He couldn't have shoes on. He couldn't have a clothing with a hem, a shash that maybe what? He's going to go ahead and take some money out for himself. You have to be squeaky clean. So over here, you can't do that. And that's why this person in the fifth hour can't go in and take it for himself. But in Achinami, he can sell it to Yisrael. So basically, you don't have a raya from Rebbe that he holds like Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yosef, the Ferish Amala said, in other words, you don't have a raya. Rabbi Yosef had gotten sick. And now Rav Adamar Masna is reminding Rabbi Yosef what he told him. Usually it's a buyer that's reminding Rabbi Yosef. Over here, it's Rav Adamar Masna, and he said, you told us from the Ferish, say umachra lan nachrim ki Rabbi Yehuda. So you do have a valid raya. In other words, when you taught it to us, you mama said, when Rebbe said it, he said, go sell it to a goy. Why? Because you can't sell it to a yid. Because an other yid can't use it either. And therefore you have a clear raya that Rebbe holds like Rav, or Rav holds like Rebbe, in the sheet of Rebbe Huda, that Chamisha Oilin. And that's it. We pass like Rebbe Huda. Okay. Amr Rabbi Yosef, Kiman Ozla Shmaitza, the Rebbe. This sugya that we said, who does it go according to? Who goes according to? It goes according to Rebbe, right? This thing about going ahead, fellas, selling chametz in order to be able to return something to somebody. What right do you have to touch something that you were entrusted to watch, right? Who says you can go ahead and do it to return something to somebody? That is Rebbe, because over here we're saying go ahead, take it, sell it to a guy to be able to give money to the yid, the one who entrusted you with it. Who says you can touch it? There must be a shita that says I can go ahead and do that. And that's the shita of Rebbe, which we're going to see right now. Did not. You trust your Paris to your friend, even if they're going to go ahead and rot away, right? You shouldn't touch them. You shouldn't touch them. Sell in Bezdin, because you return an Aveda, it's going to be totally lost. So that shita that we said over here, sell the chametz to a guy in order to return money to a yid, is the shita of Rav Shimon Gamliel. We're not learning this. Only the normal amount of chesaron. In other words, I guess there was a certain amount of attrition in the fruit that you couldn't sell. In other words, don't be locked into saying it's Rav Shimon Gamliel. It's the Kuli Alma. It's the Kuli Alma. Rav Shimon Gamliel was saying you could sell it even if it's the normal amount of loss. With a kind of common disagrees with that. If it's more than that, more than the normal loss, you're able to sell it. And certainly over here by chametz, where it's going to be a total loss, of course you can sell it. Everyone would agree. You're not limited to saying it's Rav Shimon Gamliel. It's going to Kuli Alma. Okay, that was the sugya of the times. The next din was the din of the Mishnah. The din of the Mishnah to show Rabbi Yehuda. I'll speak it outside. They think about it, fellas. In the Yud Gimel Nisan, the Yerushalayim was packed. You had millions of, I don't know how many people you had there. There's sugyas that said there was over 1 million psachim. It was so packed with people. We have the beauty of Ma'izmanim. You take a look. When's the time you go ahead, can eat chametz until? When's the time you can burn chametz? We have exact times, and we have clocks and digital clocks and expensive watches. We can go ahead and in those days they can't. They had sundials. They didn't look at your wrist and see a sundial. They had to go see where the sun was situated. So they had simonim. Rabbi Yehuda said, what was the simon? And there was a staba. There was rows of benches in Harabayas, and on top they would put 2 lachmei toida that became puzzled. And as long as the 2 were there, you could eat. They would take away 1. That's the 5th hour toilet. You can't do anything. They would take away 2. That's the zman of beer. That's how you would know. That's what the Mishnah says. The under discussion, guys, now is the lachmi toida. What do you do with this? So let me give you the Gemara outside. The ideas of kachim are I'll speak out a little kachim and get the Gemara, and it'll go much easier. There are 2 types basically kachim. You're familiar with kachim kedoshim and kachim kalim. Kachim kedoshim is eaten for a day and a night, right? A chatas, an asham, the kivsei atzeres. These are the shlamim that have din kachim kedoshim. These are eaten for a day and a night. Any carbon oil is burnt. Most kachei kalim, predominantly shlamim, abachar, maisa, they can be eaten for what? For 2 days and a night. Right? Carbon pesach we know is special halacha, and then there's the carbon toida. The carbon toida, cholachayim, the chesela, people who survive a sea journey or a trip in the desert or a chayla, they're let out of prison. Cholachayim, the chesela, cholachayim, and you bring a carbon taida. You bring a carbon taida. What's a carbon taida? It's a shlamim that is accompanied by 4 types of breads, 3 of them that are matzah, 1 that's chametz. Out of these, you need 10 of each, a total of 40. Total of 40. It's only eaten for a day and a night. It's a beautiful Ibn Ezra says that since it's only eaten, when you went and thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you want to be publicized as much as possible. Since it's only eaten for a day and a night, as opposed to a shlamim, which is 2 days and a night, you're going to have to bring more people to eat it because it's a short period of time. Thus, you're public, you can go ahead and thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So you're going to maximize the simcha. It's a beautiful shot. Why a taida is different than a shlamim. Right? So when you go ahead and shecht, there's 2 ways, 2 matirim over here. There's the shechita and the zrika. There's 4 avodas adam. You shecht a carbon, you makabel the dam in a kli shares, you walk it over to the mizbeach, the zorek, and you do zrika. Until the point in time where you do shechita, the carbon, the lachmi toy davadin of kedushas damin. They have kedusha for their value, but not intrinsically kodesh. An animal has kedushas haguf. This has kedushas damin. When you shech the animal, the same machlokes, but when you shech the animal pashtus, when you do both, it instills in the lechem that it also becomes kodesh, has kedushas haguf. What's the difference between kedushas damin and kedushas haguf? Kedushas damin you can redeem, kedushas haguf you can't. Kedushas damin you can redeem, kedushas haguf you can't. These 2 chales were of the variety of taida, and they were puzzle. How they get puzzle? So this is a beautiful pashtus Gemara. You lived far away. If you were mechayiv to give a carbon taida, you didn't just drive to Yerushalayim, bring a carbon, and drive back. You waited when you went to Yerushalayim. When did you go to Yerushalayim? 3 times a year. So if you went Pesach time and you were mechayiv to thank Hashem for one of 4 sivas, Chol HaChaim, you had all these people bringing all their taidas. You can't bring it your dalid. Why? Because you're going to bring the lechem lebeis absol. You don't have time to eat the matzah. So they all bring it on your gimel. But since you had so many, it wasn't possible to go ahead and consume all the challah. Therefore, you had nicer. You had leftover challah. You would use nicer. You would not use kosher dikalet. You can't go ahead and take something that's kedusha and knowingly know that it's going to become puzzle because you're leaving it up there till the shas habir. You can leave it up there to the 6th hour. I can't take kosher that's kosher and make it puzzle to be goyimit. Therefore, they would use puzzle. It was nicer, and the reason you had nicer was because of the amount, the tremendous amount of kabbanis that were brought. So let's see the Gemara inside now. Let's see how it goes. Tani v'oidam Rabbi Yehuda shtei chales, and they would put on mashma. They would be put on the itztaba on the road of bench. Tani kamed Rabbi Yehuda al gav itztaba mashma on the bench itself. Now the bench itself was covered, so the Gemara has a kasha. If amalei v'chilatz nehu tzarich, putting it on the bench where no one can see it is not going to help you. It's covered up. So Tani learned al gav itztaba, the covering. Put it on the roof of the covering of the benches. That's where people could see it, and that's what they did. Amarachba says the Amarachba Rabbi Yehuda Harabayis Stoyov Kavloya, it had double benches. Taninami Hachi Harabayis Stoyov Kavloya had double benches. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, they called Istavanis Hayinikres. It was called Istavanis. That's a lotion of a storefront. You remember the Russians playing chess in front of the storefront in the picture in Erevin? Remember we had that was the case where you went from the Chanus, which was just a Yachid, till the Stoyoy where they're playing. It's a Carmelist, and then you went right into in Rosh Hashanah. We had that going through. Okay, so that they called this a storefront. Why was it a storefront? Because it looked like a storefront, because it had what? Rows of benches like they used to have in front of storefronts. Stayov, lefnim stayov. You had a bench within a bench. Psulos, now psulos. Amai psulos, why they puzzle? Since there were so many of them, as we spoke out, right? They had this tremendous amount of traffic going up to Yerushalayim, Nifsadis Belina. They become Pasalina. Now think about it, it's very geschmack, guys. Since you had so many people in Yerushalayim at that time, it's a fantastic way of publicizing it. People are going to be looking up at the Harabayas and they're going to see the Chalas there Because again, everyone's coming out to bring the Korban Pesach and you're valid. You're gonna have a tremendous amount of. It's not like it's Thomas like no one's gonna notice it. You're gonna notice it. Tanya, Emevin Toida b'Chag HaMatzos. You can't bring the Korban Toida b'Chag HaMatzos. Why? Push it. They chametz Shabbat because again, 10 of those lachmi Toida are chametz. It's pshita, so it's push. What are you telling me? Of course, you can't bring an onion dalit. It's speaking about not Pesach, it's speaking on Yudal itself. You can't bring kach in the base of psul. By bringing the Yudalid, you're ensuring that you could eat it. You should be able to eat it to the night, but you can't because you know you have the 7th hour. It's asa. So by bringing it on Yudalid, automatically you're bringing lachmei toida the base of psul. You're causing it to be possible. Everyone would bring on the 13th, and therefore you had a tremendous amount. When we touch Marubois, Nifsalis Belina, they became comes the morning of the Yudalid, they were puzzled. No, they were kasha. This is a very, very lumdish teretz. But again, we're going to have a ksheris. I'm going to bring in all the raid that I just told you. Ksheris hayu. Well, I might correlate psulois. So if they were kasha, why do they call psulois? As we said, when did they get to kedusha? When did they get to kedusha? When you check the zevach. So since you shouldn't have said the zevach, they were kosher, they had kedushas domim, but they didn't have kedushas akuf. Says v'nishchat, so go ahead and shecht it. And then why? Says no, show about a zevach. You lost the zevach. So if you lost the zevach with all these tremendous amount of kavanas there, one goes wild, you don't know where it is. Go ahead, take that. It has kedushas domim, put it up. You don't have to worry about being cut from base of soul. Furthermore, v'nesi zevach achem v'nishchat. So good, you can't find the original that was selected with it. Bring another one. Again, it only has kedushas damim. Go ahead and bring another one. That will instill kedushas aguf in it. It says, no. You made it ha. You said, this is the Korban toida, and this is its lechem. In other words, I designated specifically for this. So therefore, I can't use another animal for it. It's zu v'zu. If you go ahead and lose the lechem, maybe lechem acher. You could bring another lechem of the toida, but if you lose the toida, maybe toida acher. It's my time. What's the reason? Lechem glal toida. Lechem is incorporated into toida, being toida b'glal lechem. So therefore, if I lose the toida, I'm finished. I can't bring it. So therefore, it must be speaking about you lost the animal. You have lachmi toida that is kedushas damim, and you're putting that on top. But they caution an apostle. What's the chiluk between kedushas damim and kedushas aguf? Kedushas damim, guys, you could be toida, you could redeem. So why are you putting it up there? Go ahead, redeem it, and it's cooler now. Says, you're right. So back to the original. You did shecht it. So if you shechted zevach and now has kedushas aguf. So why you can't, you still have the same problem, guys. You can't put kasha dika lechem up there because you're going to be creating issa to the 6th hour. It says, v'nishbach adam. There's two matirim. There's two things that matter: the shchita and the zrika. So you did the shchita, but you didn't do the zrika because it spilled. Ukeman kerebi, dama rebi, shnei devarim matirim. The two things that are matter, shchita and the zrika, mylin zeh b'lei zeh. They work each one without the other. In other words, to instill kedushas aguf. The Tanya, kivsei atzeres. Now, there's the only other time you're going to bring chametz on the mizbeach is the shtei lechem on Shavuos. We know that on the 16th day of Nisan, you brought the Korban Omer. The Korban Omer matted the chadash, it matted the sa'orim of the winter wheat, and people in the Medina then could eat anything. However, in the Beis Hamikdash, they didn't bring chadash until Shavuos. Until Shavuos, the chadash, the new wheat, couldn't be bought. Until why? Until Shavuos. What was the matir for the Beis Hamikdash? That was the kivsei atzeres, 2 shlamim, unique, that they're kachei kedoshim, only a day and a night, and they were accompanied by 2 lechem. And these lechem were mamish chametz. So now, here's the halacha. We're going to take the halacha that we ascertained by the shtei lechem, and we're going to apply it to the toida, the only other chametz that exists in the Beis Hamikdash. Right? So let's see it inside. The Tanya, kivsei atzeres, ein mikachnes alechem. The kivsei atzeres is not mekadosh the lechem. Right? When you go, it's not mekadosh the lechem. Ela b'shchita. If you shech, in other words, if you have a good shchita, even if you don't have a good zrika, according to Rabbi, it'll still kedushas guf in it. Ketzad Shachtan lishman, if you shechted the right way, l'shem the zevach. V'zakan dam lishman. In other words, you did everything kosher v'yashar. Kiddush alechem. It has kedushas aguf. Shachtan shaloi lishman. The shchita shaloi lishman. The halacha is a shchita shaloi lishman is kosher. El shaloi oila b'ayil l'shem chayva. It doesn't count, except the chatas is possible. The zark and domin shaloi lishman. So one you did correctly and one you didn't do correctly. But you did both incorrectly. The shchita and the speaker shaloi lishman. Like kiddush alechem, then the lechem doesn't have kedushas aguf. The matirim never instill kedushas aguf because they were both done incorrectly. Shachton l'shman, the zak and damish l'shman. If the shchita was good but the speaker wasn't good, then lechem kaddish ve'ena kaddish. The lechem will be halfway kaddish. It'll kaddish that you won't be able. It's puzzle, but you won't be able to be paid it. Ve'ena kaddish, but you won't be able to what? You won't be able to eat it. You won't be able to eat it. Divrei Rabbi. So according to Rabbi, it has kedushas aguf, but you can't eat it. So it's this halfway thing. So that's the Kivsiyat Seres. So l'chayra, the same halacha would apply to carbon taida. If being a carbon taida, you do a shchita, I guess kedushas aguf, but it doesn't have kedushas. It takes out kedushas damim because you did a shchita like Rebbe. Those are the ones that you could put up what the kasha. As they kasha, they're not tamei, they're not nicer, and you could put that up on the itztabah to be a sign. So we have two pshatim now. Either mamish, the apostle nicer because of the leftovers, because he had a tremendous amount, or it's speaking he's speaking one that had kedushas aguf. You can't eat it because you didn't have the total matter. You only had the matter of shchita. You didn't have the matter of zerika because the zerika was shaloi l'shma, according to Rabbi. Rabbi Elazar b'Shimon Aimer lo'olam ein hakodesh halechem at sheyishchat l'shman v'yisrak dam l'shman. He holds you need both material. You need this act of shchita and zrika to instill kedushas guf. So tomorrow I feel to Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Shimon. You can even say this by Taida goes to Rabbi Shimon. Again, they were arguing by Kivsiyat Seres. Here you can say by Taida. Again, there's four avoiders. There's the shchita, there's the kabbalah, there's the ilacha, and the zrika. So what did you do? You did two correctly. The shchita was correctly, and the kabbalah was correctly, and then the nishpach it fell. So then you do a zrika. Rabbi Elazar Shimon sabala kavua. And Rabbi Shimon would hold like his father, that even though you didn't do Zerika, once you did Kabbalah, it's Oimed Lizroik. The Amar Kol Oimed Lizroik is Kizaratami. Rabbi Shimon holds the following. Even if I don't do a Zerika, but it's Roif is Zerika because I have the blood, and I never do Zerika, it's like Kizaratami. So therefore, I did a Shchita Shma, great. I did a Kabbalah Shma, great. I didn't get a chance to do a Zerika because it spilled. But since when it was in the Kois, it was Roy to be what? Lizroik. Therefore, it's Kesarik Dami, and therefore it'll have total Kedushas Aguf. Rebbe, I can't eat it because I didn't do the Srika Mamish, but I could put it up there and it'll be used. So two possibilities. Either one, Mamish total Maisa because it was left over, or one that you bought correctly and it's Kasha, but it didn't get Kedushas, a total Kedushas Lachila because you didn't do a Srika. Tana Mishum Reb Elazar Amru, we have another opinion, guys. Mishum Reb Elazar, we say, Kisheris Hayu. They were kasha, totally kasha. Kol Zman Shemunachas, Kol Oichlin. They were kasha. As long as they were there, two of them, they ate. Nil Achas Mehem, Toilin, like Rabbi Yehuda. V'lei Oichlin, and they didn't eat. V'lei Sarfin, and they didn't burn. Toilin, that's what Toilin means. You don't eat, you don't burn. Nit L'shteyem, but if both the Kisheris Tika Toidel, again, this is the most other shita to the other end of the extreme, and it's a brisa that they were totally kasha, no Torah, forget about tzrika, forget about nicer. Mamish had kasha dika lechem. They put them up there, right? And hischilakun l'sreifin. As soon as they took off the other two, they began to burn. Tanya Abishol Oimer. He had a different Abishol. The Tanya Abishol had a different girsa of what went on to make a recognition of keeping time when to go ahead and burn the carbon. To burn the chametz. Shtei paras hayu charshois b'hara mishcha. Hara mishcha was hara zaysim. Hara zaysim was very, very visible to all. So you had two cows on the hara zaysim, and they were busy plowing. Kol zman sheshteyem charshois. If both the cows were plowing, kala amoichlin, similar to the two lachmi toida. Nitelas achamehen. If you took one of them out of the boat, and now you only have one. If you have one lachem, toilin, layachem lesarfin, nitla shteyem. Once they took away both of them, then hiskilu kolam sarfim. Everyone began to go ahead and burn. Okay, so I wish everyone a good Shabbos. Be'ez Hashem, we're going to begin the sugya of Reb Chanina Sagan of Kahanim on Motzei Shabbos at 7 o'clock. It behooves everyone if they can do any type of art school has a very, very nice hakdama. Kahati has a beautiful hakdama. To read through it to get an idea, because this is mamish the main sugya in Shas. In Bavli, you're going to find that deals with Tumah V'Tayla. Wish everyone a good Shabbos, and I thank you all for listening.
Thank you.